Hey everyone, this is Amanda Moore from the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and you're listening to the ASF podcast, the show that explains everything you want to know about Angelman Syndrome. We're so excited you're here, and we hope you enjoy the show. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another session and podcast with me, Amanda Moore from the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. I'm incredibly excited tonight to be joined by some awesome dads from our community. I wish I could have every single dad on in our community because I think they're all amazing, but I'm excited to be joined by some really special ones tonight. And we're going to talk about everything there is to know about being a dad to an individual with Angelman syndrome. I know all of us are just dying to know because we're always wondering what's going on in the minds of our dads. And so hopefully I can dig deep tonight. But I'm going to first start off by letting everyone introduce themselves that are on the podcast with me. I'm going to start with my friend Nate. Nate, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and your family?
Yeah, good evening, Amanda. So my name is Nate Smith. Me and my wife, Caitlin, live out in California with our son, Rowan. He's 4 years old, deletion positive. We got the diagnosis a little bit before he turned 1 year old. So we've been part of the Angelman community formally since he was about 11 months old.
Well, and just, I have to also put a plug in as well. Nate, we're very thankful as part of our parent advisory committee and has done a lot. And also their community has done amazing work on doing some awesome stuff around the walk. So we're just so thankful for you and excited you're here tonight.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Let's go next with John.
Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. So I'm John Sugden. My wife, Anna, and I have 3 boys. The oldest one, Sebastian, is 18, and he's deletion positive. He was diagnosed. Took us about 3 years to get him diagnosed back then. And we've been part of the ASF ever since. From the day of the diagnosis, they got me hooked. So after 3 years of trying to figure out what was going on, we finally found a home. So happy to be here.
Yes, and I also have to plug, John is a member of our board, but also was a member way back in the day. So it's kind of one of those things we just will never let him leave. So we're so thankful for him and his wife for allowing him to do so much work with us. So thanks for being here, John. And Jim, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Hello, Amanda. Thank you. My name is Jim Kibitza. My wife is Jen. We live in Central Connecticut with our 2 boys. Lakin is neurotypical. He's 14, going on 15 next month. Cole is 13. He is deletion positive. He was diagnosed at about 2.5 years old. So we're going on year, I think, 11. It feels like forever of our journey. And I've been extensively involved with the ASF for a very long time. We run the walk. I'm on co-chair of the parent advisory committee. I was on the board as well, and family fund committee. So wherever Amanda wants me to go, I go.
It. Well, and I did hear through a little birdie that you guys finalized your family fund decision. So hopefully we'll be able to get those out to the family soon. So that's exciting.
It was a late night last night.
I heard. Well, we're so thankful for you. And I know the families are super thankful for you for all the work that you do. So thanks for being on. And of course,
you,
last but not least, I couldn't have a dad's episode without inviting my amazing husband and epic dad, Adam. So Adam, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family?
Thanks, honey. My name is Adam Moore. We live in Indianapolis, Fishers, near Indianapolis. Sons Jackson and Baden, they turn 8 tomorrow. Jackson is deletion positive, and he was diagnosed at about 18 months after being sick and having a fever and noticing some seizure activity. So we are heavily involved with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. since the diagnosis in the hospital, similar to many people. The moment we found out, we started researching and checking boxes, and ASF was probably the very first site that we found more information with, and we've never been able to get out of it.
He says that laughing, right?
Right. I love the ASF.
Yes.
And I love my wife,
Oh,
the CEO.
yes. Well, we're so excited to have you guys. And so, I wanted to ask some questions to you guys to get a different perspective. And what's great is there's a diverse perspective. We have a youngster within Nate and his family. We have us who just have one that's turning 8, Jim, who has almost one going into being a teenager soon. And then John, who is now has an 18-year-old going through the guardianship process. And so we all have walked the journey and we're in different stages of that journey. So I'm curious, for us as a mom, I am able to articulate and tell people about what diagnosis day meant for me. But I'm curious for you guys, and anyone can jump in and start. What was diagnosis day like for you?
It was, I can start this, John. It was a really mixed bag, right? It's like we had been going through specialists and specialists and specialists. We had been told he had CP, that he had autism, that he was blind, deaf, just all sorts of people throwing darts at the board to try to figure what it was. We had gone to a geneticist and said, we think he has Angelman syndrome. She's like, no, these are all the reasons why he doesn't have it. So we finally got into Philadelphia Children's Hospital after a year and a half of a waiting list. And they said, do you still want to come? And we said, if you test him for Angelman syndrome, we'll be right there. If not, then forget it. And so when they told us, I had asked them to call me instead of my wife. And it was just like, it took the rug from under my feet. It was just, I remember it was just like so many questions. And so I used to live in New York back then, and I had to take, it was after 9/11. So I used to take a ferry back home, and I think I sat on that ferry back and forth for about an hour while I was on the phone with the ASF asking questions, because I knew I had a ton of questions, but I knew my wife was going to have even more questions. And so I spent like an hour going back and forth, and then finally got home. And I remember like parts of it, but not all of it. And I think the next couple of months were like a huge blur. I remember I would go to stop by a church before I went to work, and then just take a deep breath before I went home, like went into the apartment every night for the next 6-9 months. So that was kind of the beginning of the first year after knowing. And it was a mixed bag, because in a way we finally knew what we had to deal with, because if you don't know, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But it was also bittersweet, because we still held a little bit of hope that it might not be anything, and that you might outgrow it, or it might be something different, so that's what I remember. It's just, I remember specific scenes, of when I heard, just having time for myself, and just the rest is a huge blur.
How was that having to tell Anna?
It was rough, but I think I blocked it out. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember calling the foundation, and that part I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember going into the parking lot and like taking a moment to myself. And then the rest is kind of a blur. You can ask her. She probably remembers better than I do. For me, it's just a huge blur.
I mean, it's a heavy responsibility to pass that news on to the wife, right? I mean,
that was her first one. So it's like,
yeah, absolutely. Nate, Adam, Jim.
Yeah, I was kind of the inverse. I got a call from my wife, and our kind of come to diagnosis story was, we started noticing that he was missing milestones around 6 months when he wasn't able to sit up. And so we started a PT process and going through that. And my wife actually works in psychiatry, and she had gotten a call about 2 weeks prior to our official diagnosis, requesting a psychiatrist who had familiarity with kids with Angelman syndrome.
Oh.
And so she had, in school, she had briefly touched on Angelman syndrome, and she said, that kind of sounds familiar, but went on and started Googling, and symptomatically, all the boxes started getting checked. And so, by the time PT came around, and we weren't really making a whole lot of progress, they referred us to a physical medicine doctor. And so we went and saw the physical medicine doctor, and he said, I'd really like a neurologist to take a look at him. And the neurologist came in 10 minutes later into the same room and said, yeah, we should really start doing some genetic testing. And my wife specifically requested Angelman syndrome. And I remember I was in a meeting at the time and had gotten a call from her. And, she had said, hey, I just got a call back from the neurologist. It was positive for Angelman syndrome. And outside of her research, I didn't really know what that meant. And my personality is I don't like to go any direction too far without learning a little bit more about it. And so I kind of said, okay, well, it is what it is. We got to move forward with it. I'll learn more about it. And then whatever we have to do, we're going to have to do. But I do remember going back into the meeting and having to pretend like I was paying attention to people that are talking to my face, and just it wasn't registering at all what they were saying. The rest of that day is a blur. And that's what I did. As soon as I got home, I dove into what is Angelman syndrome? What are the different genotypes and phenotypes, and what's the 18-year outlook, 30-year outlook? Because that's my coping mechanism when I get something like that, is I need to know.
Yeah.
And be as well informed as I can be. And so that's how I came across ASF was, when you type in Angelman syndrome, at least in the United States, that's one of the top hits. So that's kind of how I got connected.
It's so interesting that both you and John almost diagnosed ahead of time. Like you're like, please test for Angelman syndrome. I think that's so interesting because I feel like, once again, a lot of times we as families, we become like detectives, geneticists, neurologists ourselves, right? So that's so interesting. What about you, Jim?
I guess we're all similar, but different at the same time. So now John got the call, Nate's wife got the call. We got the call. It was a rainy day. The number came up on the cell phone. Just like John, I remember exactly what I was doing. I pulled into the McDonald's parking lot. I parked and I put it on speakerphone, and the doctor just started like talking, and this was after basically from birth, from not gaining weight to missing milestones to starting birth to 3 programs and doing genetic testing, just like generic genetic testing. And I still had no idea what Angelman was at that point. So we got the call, and it was a time when I don't think we talked. It was a very quiet ride home. We were approached by the local chapter of the ASF back then, who invited us up to a picnic, and again kind of just dove head first into it. But my wife was definitely the one, like Nate was, who was researching it, everything, and I'm like, no, it's a total denial of everything that was going on. And for me personally, it was a very hard, almost like a grieving process. It was very hard. It took years to finally be able to kind of come out of it, and and here I am just doing everything I can to speak about it and teach about it. But it was tough. It was very hard, on our relationship and me. And that's, I guess that's the best without really going into it, because I could talk hours. So that. But it was hard for me.
So I'm you said you came out of it, but I'm guessing you still have moments of grief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
you think that, your life is, I mean, we're like, oh, we're going to have kids when we're, whatever, we're 23 or whatever we were, or 25, we were 25. We're like, we're going to have kids and they're going to be, by the time they're 25, we're going to be 50. They're going to be out of the house. We're going to be empty nesters and blah, blah, blah. And, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be empty nesters probably for our entire life, but at least I'll have a buddy to go to, do all my bucket list stuff with me. So if he turns 21 and I want to go to Vegas, we're going to go to Vegas.
Right.
So there's nothing going to stop us. So kind of changed my outlook on life, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you go, it is a grieving process, right? And grieving all the things that you think you won't be able to do. You don't know how your life is going to change. You don't know what you're dealing with. But I think as they get older, you learn to appreciate who they are more and more. Well, you appreciate them from where they're little, but you become to appreciate them more and more for who they are. And especially when you have other kids, you see, at first we attributed a ton of stuff to Angelman that really had nothing to do with Angelman. It had to do with just being a boy.
Right.
And then you see them grow up and mature. And at least, our experience has been really, really positive over the past couple of years because we've seen that he's doing things that we didn't think he could do. Right.
Yeah.
And, he has two friends, which is one more than we thought he was going to have. Mm-hmm. He is carpooling to school. We just came back from skiing. He went to the Vail adaptive program and was able to go down the mountain on a chair and woke up every morning at 2:00 in the morning during our trip and would start either trying to put his clothes on or saying ski on his talker.
Aww.
So there's a whole bunch of things that we thought that were out of reach that now we're learning are within our reach. And you learn to appreciate what they contribute to this world, and especially when we're going through difficult times. And the kid always has a smile. He is affectionate. He likes to bring people together. He walks into a room and he doesn't stop until everybody says hello to everybody else, whether they want to or not.
Right. I love that.
Willingly or unwillingly. And so there's, it changes your perspective on it. But I do agree, Jim, that there's always that little bit of grief that is still there that we're all gradually processing, and that I don't know that you ever get through entirely. You get better at managing it, but
yeah. What about you? Your diagnosis day?
Yeah, this is Adam. Diagnosis day is pretty vivid. Amanda and I were actually getting ready to leave town for our anniversary, and Jackson spiked a fever. He ended up going to med check with Amanda, with mommy. And meanwhile, I'm packing bags so we can go out of town. Just Amanda and I, and grandparents are arranged and lined up. And I get a call, just a horrible call from poor Amanda, who is in just distress about seizures. They took one look at him at the med check and sent him to the hospital. So they're like, you've got to take him to Riley. Take him to Children's Hospital. He's having seizures. We don't know why. And I'm a nurse, and I know from my background when I was with family medicine at that time, actually on the floor, it's not uncommon for kids to have seizures at certain ages with illnesses and fevers. Those kind of things are something to grow out of. So I'm like, all right, let's just the facts here. He's having seizures. We were told to go to the hospital. That's where we're going next to get the seizure stopped. So I remember all of it. I mean, that part I remember. When we got in the room and Jackson's wired up and we're trying to feed him, and the resident who was there walks in, sits down, and delivered us the news, that's where my memory kind of stops. When she said Angelman syndrome and started listing some of the things that he wouldn't do, everything started to echo and tunnel. And I'm told, Amanda said that I just started asking medical questions because I think that's just, some of the training. But I don't remember anything except for my wife holding my son and him just kind of wondering like what in the hell is going on. And Amanda crying. Like that is what I remember. And after that, it just kind of is fog and haze, and echoes of a medical person talking in the background and just kind of blacking out, and then, going home, like you get kind of snapped out of it because we had already had conversations with people that something's not wrong, but something's not right.
Yeah.
Too, right. One doc in particular, at the office, eventually was like, there's something, he's real tense, and but he's responding. So I don't think it's autism. Mm-hmm. And I don't really feel like it's CP, but she knew that there is something in particular about Jackson, his behavior, his manner. He's happiest guy, happy guy all the time. But then we got on, and I do remember laying on the floor in the hospital finally.
After they told us not to Google, guess who Googles?
First thing, right? Naturally. And I know better, and especially know better in the medical field. But that's what we did. And I actually found, probably for the first time, the ASF website. And it listed some of the characteristics, right? Affinity for water. I was like, boom, this kid will find and seek out and go to water, So we knew that. And seizures, okay, we checked that box. And then just kind of going down the developmental delays, they don't really speak much and maybe behind on crawling. And it just all started to make sense. And I think that's when the echoing kind of stopped. I'm like, all right, we already have all these services in place because we knew something's going on. We're going home with a new medication and a diagnosis. And that's it. Nothing else,
I wasn't that calm.
Nothing else medically changed. This is a dad's.
I know, right? You're right.
That was, I had to wrap my head around that. We're doing everything already for him. That was my thing. Like, what do I need to do for him? What do I need to do for my family? And what does Jackson need now, today, like yesterday, because of what we have as a diagnosis now? And then it was just a race. We just took off, Amanda much more so. But it was just a sprint to get as much information as we could, line up whatever services we were going to need, talk to the right people, and go from there. Yeah. And we haven't stopped since, right? I don't think any of us have.
I don't think we ever will, right?
Right.
It's always something new you learn every single day, right? Something new that we discover. So, well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's so interesting because I learned something new just now without him talking about the diagnosis day from his perspective, right? Because it's interesting to see it through different lenses. So I'm curious, we'll get into some fun questions about you guys in a minute, but like when it comes to your individual with Angelman syndrome, and you're all are in different stages, but when you think about like your hopes for them, what does that look like for you? Like, what do you hope for your child with Angelman syndrome?
Our hope is to have Cole be productive in society, no matter what way it looks. Our initial plan is, when he's old enough to work, when he turns 16, is get an ice cream truck, and it's going to be his ice cream truck. It's going to be his job, Aww. So and he loves ice cream trucks. So, ultimately we want him to be productive as best as he can be. And it also isn't just about him doing stuff too. It's about teaching other people things. Mm-hmm. So it might not necessarily he goes to school and sits in his classes so he can learn, but the other kids can learn about him. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been our philosophy ever since he started school. But ultimately, have some sort of meeting in the community.
I love that. What about for Sebastian?
So Sebastian is 18, so we're thinking about this very actively, and I think I share that interest in making sure that he has a productive life. We're not that keen on what that will look like, but where we have a little bit more certainty is, we want him to be surrounded by a community of people who love him, and he has that in our community, and he's going to a school right now where it's still early, but they're starting to stay later in the day.
Yeah.
And eventually at the end of the year, they'll have a sleepover. And the idea is that potentially that could be their living arrangement.
Yeah.
And he has good friends. He enjoys carpool. And so I think we also think about his impact on others and making sure that he creates this awareness that he already does. And it's not just awareness about Angelman syndrome, it's his perspective on life of bringing people together. So I think friends, check. Living arrangement with some independence, check, kind of, hopefully. Productivity, that's a big nut to crack, and that's a lot of your time. And so I know there's programming, but you also want to, and so maybe some unconventional way of productivity, right? He can't keep a regular job, but maybe he can inspire people and be not a motivational speaker because he can't speak, but somehow communicate his gift to others. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you have that set up, because I think that's something that so many people, when they get to, I know it's something that we are terrified of like what older looks like for him, right? Like what his community is going to look like. So I love that you at least have the community piece, figured out, which is great.
It was a lot of luck more than anything, but I think it is what concerns me the most. I think my wife and I kind of divide and conquer, and she does everything that's like the day to day and just like making sure he has everything he needs today for, so that he can progress. But I'm thinking more longer term, finances, housing, just we're both thinking about each one of the things, but we specialize in different ways.
Good teamwork. Yeah. What about for Rowan?
I think the outlook is ever evolving. I think one of the biggest changes on my perspective has actually been exposure to older angels and seeing what they're capable of. I don't think that there's any reason why he can't be a member of society. My pipe dream, and my wife may shoot me for mentioning this, but my pipe dream is to create a residential living facility for people with Angelman syndrome. And within that, there's the option to stay in group housing or medical necessity, but also as part of that, there's a lot of activities to do. And one of those is gardening and then doing like a vegetable stand. And I think that is kind of a perfect opportunity for Rowan to interact with society as a whole, be able to feel like, what he's seeing from seed to stand is coming through, and then flex, a little bit of mathematical muscles. So I
love that.
That's my plan right now, but he's 4.
Dirt and water. What else could an angel hope for? That's fantastic.
Right. And he gets it twice, once for watering the plants and once for cleaning himself off.
Exactly. Well, I love that idea. I think a lot of families that are probably listening right now are like, heck yeah, sign me up for an angel residential place. I think that would be fantastic. So let us know how we can help you with that. What about for Jack?
It's Adam. I think a big long-term goal, just like Nate mentioned, is some kind of housing that I know he's safe and that I know he's enjoying life and what independence he does have. Jackson would, I have no doubt, convince us that he is already very independent and can do anything that he wants. And I like that about him, because he is, my short-term goals for him and outlook and hopes, he shatters ceilings regularly, just going to the bathroom, on the toilet, and letting us know, hey, I need to go. He's been doing that more lately, and that's huge. I dreamed of this, and we respond, and I know he enjoys, like, oh my gosh, you're listening, you understand, some kind of communication. He's working on some limited sign. He can tell us please now, and then take us where he wants to go. And that just blows my mind that we're here from sitting in that, in that hospital room, getting ready to go home and having this diagnosis, So a lot of my hopes are very kind of practical and short term right now. Like, what are you going to show me next, buddy? Like, what expectation are you going to, totally change for me? Are you going to use your fork and your spoon regularly all the time and not just your hands? Are you actually going to eat at night? Is another, am I always going to feed you? Right. So I do have the big dream of a safe and happy home for him as well. But my goals and dreams right now for him are just to blow the roof off of these what I may consider limitations or things that I'm not sure he'll ever do, and just surprise me, because he's doing it all the time, and I'm really eager just to see what are you going to do next, man? What are you going to do that I didn't think you could do, and keep going, keep pushing, and encourage him to do that.
I love that. Hey guys, it's Amanda here. As you know, we're here for you, our community. If you have questions about any topics we can discuss in our podcast, or if you have ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. All you need to do is email me at dearamanda@angelman.org. Thank you so much for listening and your continued support of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation.
Well, that's a great point that both you and Nate made, and I think there's two takeaways from that. One is, we have to change the way that medicine is practiced, so that when they give us a diagnosis, they don't tell us all the things that they think that we don't know. I know they want to CYA because of legal reasons, and
Sure.
they can't tell us your son is going to do this or that, but stop telling us all the things that they can't do, because it's not true.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much more
Absolutely.
than we think that they can do. And so our role is to facilitate. Like, I remember in an early stage with Sebastian, my role was to find the regular toys and adapt them.
Yeah.
Right. I used to spend hours at Home Depot, and I would go to Home Depot and say, hardest guy here. And then somebody would raise their hand and it's like, all right, this is what I'm trying to do. What do I need to do? What parts do I need? And we would adapt any type of, scooter or whatever. And so the other thing that is important to me that Nate mentioned is he looks to the older angels. And I think, not to date myself here, but
Right.
we waited 3 months, but your kids are born and they have an iPad around. There's like 6 of them around, whatever you have, device, tablet, phone, whatever it is. These kids are exposed and are able to communicate. And the way that, like, Sebastian will do stuff on social media that I honestly don't know how to do.
Yeah.
And often have to learn how to undo.
That's the big part, right?
So you have a set of tools, and I think it's just wonderful. And I think we got to be careful not to look to the older ones and say, this is what my son will achieve, but just say, you can at least achieve this and much more, because the science is developing, the tools are developing, the ASF is providing so many resources. There's so much more out there that I think it just shatters all these ceilings that people like to create for them.
Absolutely.
I
100%.
I will say though, I have to always put a plug in because I think it's really important for us as younger families to acknowledge the journey that you have made as older families to help us and give us that hope, right? Because I think that because of all the things, I mean, the fact that you didn't even have an iPad and you didn't even know what it was at that time makes me laugh because I mean, we haven't had that issue, right? But
Right.
simple things like physical therapy and OT, like all that stuff has developed so much with our kids within the last even 5 years. But a lot of that is because our families have been, families that come before us have been so aggressive and being advocates and to teach others and to grow and to push that out. So I always have to acknowledge that because I am keenly aware of the people who have walked this walk before us. And they've made that walk for us so much easier and lighter in some ways. And so,
And something even too, sorry, Amanda,
no.
is the medical field. I mean, I remember when Cole was first born and they're like, what's Angelman syndrome? Like
Yeah.
you walk in and the nurse is like, I don't know what. Now they're like, oh my gosh, we studied this. I've never met somebody with it, or I have other people that I whatever with, so many more people are becoming aware of it now as well. So that's helping too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tremendously.
So for, this is, as much as we have so many hopes and dreams for our kids, we know that day to day, though, can be sometimes a very stressful journey. Outside of the fact that two of you have a full blown band behind you, whether it's drums, guitars, or whatever, what do you guys as dads do to unwind when there are stressful times? Like, what are the things that you like to do?
So I run marathons at times, but those are like bigger milestones. Like I ran one just before he was born, and then I ran one when he was like 5 or 6 to kind of prove myself that I could get back to the point where I was. Like,
Right.
It's ridiculous, but it's like, but it helps because you get healthy and you burn a ton of energy and frustration and anger, whatever.
Right.
Right now, we're taking guitar lessons and do boxing.
Oh, fun.
And then we found there's a group of parents that get together of dads from my middle son's soccer team, and I was talking to Adam about this. It's good to be in the weeds with Angelman and like fighting every day, but sometimes it's like good to take a step back and talk to other dads who have nothing to do with Angelman, and we're not talking about Angelman. It's just like regular life, right? And so a balance. And I think at the beginning, for the first 6 or 7 years, actually for the first 10 years of Sebastian's life, Anna and I had date night on Friday, and we just like had somebody who knew every Friday you have to be here because this is our date night, and that I think saved our marriage and gave us a lot of breathing room for us to catch up and kind of debrief on the week. And we were religious with that for about actually probably like 14 years.
So 14 years, Sebastian's 18. What happened with the last 4? Do you need a babysitter? Do I need to come to Florida?
Yeah.
I love
what happened in the last 4 years is that we have a 5-year-old and we're too tired to even go out.
That's true. Okay. I love that. So that's awesome, especially the boxing classes. You said are you guys doing that together?
With the two of us and Nico.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, Adam, Nate, what do you guys do to unwind?
Get away. I find it so Rowan loves to be on top of me. Yep. And I mean, like, if he could be in me, he would be in me 24/7. And you don't realize how much that really starts to like build up. Frustration is not the right word, just angst, or you get to a point where you're just like, I gotta be somewhere else. And that's not okay with Rowan. I mean, Rowan needs you in the room, and that's where you're going to be. And so what I've found is kind of my decompression that I try to do at least a couple times a year is I try to get out of the house. I go fishing, I go duck hunting, I go golfing. I do something where it's me and somebody else and no kids. One of the things that and I feel like this release when I do that, like there's just the stress of it all kind of comes off, and what I'm focused on at that moment is what I'm focused on. One of the things that I'm still coming to terms with is the guilt in doing that.
I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Because you feel great, and then as soon as you kind of come back to reality, you're like, why did I feel? I mean, is that something bad that I'm feeling so good not taking care of my kid? And in my head, I rationalize, hey, if you're doing it 4 times a year and 361 days, you got a 40-pound kid pressed up against you all the time. That's kind of my rationalization as to, this is for you. This is to allow you to mentally and physically be there the other 361 days.
Yeah.
That's obviously after the fact, but it doesn't change the fact that every time I do that, I have probably about an hour of the guilt that comes after it.
Well, my wife is just like you. My son, Cole, is on top of her 24/7. So she's the one so just wait till he's 13.
He's not 40 pounds anymore.
Something pounds. Yeah, exactly. So I understand how you feel with that. When with us, music is a big part of our lives. We've been musical for forever. I feel, and my typical son, as you could see behind me, has gotten into guitars. And now he's kind of really showing me up because I'm an awful drummer, but I think I'm good. I'm like the guy who sings in the shower thinking he's an opera singer, but it's awful. So he's really making me practice the drums and keep up with him with the songs that he's learning. So I've kind of gotten back into playing the drums, but something that kind of really I guess gets my mind going is putting my AirPods in and just sorting Lego, as you could also see behind me on the screen. It's just this is what I do. I sort Lego and just minifigs and stuff like that, and it's some sort of, I don't know, it feels like it's almost therapeutic. I have a massive collection that's over there, but that's something that I love. That when I'm having tough, it's Jim, go downstairs. I'm like, okay. So I'm like a kid going to the toy closet, So I'm 40 and I still play with Lego, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. Do you need some more Legos? Because we have quite a few.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I only have like 800 pounds of Lego right here to go through. So it's,
do you take Duplo blocks?
Oh,
Duplo blocks. Yeah, they're
the bigger ones.
Yep, they're underneath there. I got a whole separate section for those.
That's amazing. What about you?
It's a good question. John actually asked me this the other night when we were chatting, and I kind of very similar to Nate. I try and go fishing, but I love playing pickup soccer on Saturday mornings. But the guilt is powerful, and I am putting it on myself because I know how hard it is at times to just be with the boys, and trying to manage meals and entertainment, and I know that is hard on anyone who's doing it by themselves. And that includes single moms, single dads. I do not know how you guys do anything but care for children. I don't know how you go to work. It's amazing. Separate podcast, but I have found what helps me is incorporating the kids.
and bringing them with me. For example, John mentioned doing marathon. I am gearing up already because I know I need to train a lot longer than some others. I am running and preparing for the Windy City Angels ASF group this October to run up in Chicago. Join us if you can. And the last 2 nights, I was like, it's beautiful. Why don't I just take Jackson? I'll push him in his stroller and I'll get my run in and I won't feel any kind of guilt because I'm spending time with the kids. It's that 2 hours between getting home from work and bedtime. And I don't really feel like I'm missing out if I'm taking someone with me. So going fishing, same way, if I can take Baden with me and go fish, he loves fishing. He's better at it than I am already. And we will go and we can zone out together. And again, I don't have that guilt. I'll even, for a little while, I even picked up doing DoorDash just to get out of the house. I love driving around in my truck. And I got paid a little bit of money to do it. And it was a way to get out of the house and be kind of productive and, not feel quite as guilty too, because I wasn't wasting time or wasn't wasting gas. And, so yeah, I think I'm still trying to really get over, of the guilt of not being around the kids in the spare time that is, very valuable, more valuable than anything is our time lately.
Yeah, I would love to talk to someone that understands or that has gone through that or figured a way through that, because I think a lot of families, a lot of parents still feel guilty when they try to take time from themselves, right? And go for a long weekend or go for, a day. And, even when I travel for work, there's a lot of guilt there. So, but it's so important to be able to unwind to do that. So if anybody has the magic to answer, you need to let us know.
Well, we do it quite often, to be honest, anytime we can. And, it's as simple as a 1 hour drive to a neighboring, like when we were, and I'm not kidding, when he was little, we would stay like at a hotel, like 2 blocks away,
Mm-hmm.
but we needed to be able to sleep at night. And
Yeah.
it's kind of what they tell you in the plane, if the mask comes down, put yours first and then your kids. You need to be there for them, and you can't be there for them if you're not there for yourself. You have to have a little bit, these are trying situations that we encounter, and we need to have that space, that reserve, so that when the situation comes, you don't explode, and you just have the ability to be calm and think and respond instead of react, and just be there and be the best dad that you can be at that moment, whether that means cleaning him up because he had an accident, or or just helping him calm down if he's having a stressful day, or just clipping his nails because he's like putting his nails into everybody, whatever that is. And we have, I think it's harder for us than for them, I think. And this guilt is a lot is self-built. Like we had the worst 3 hours when we went to Vail, and the woman said, "Okay, you can go now." And we were like biting our nails. We're like, "You don't understand. He can't speak." And she was a nurse who had like 50 years of being a nurse. She had worked with kids with Angelman. She had his rescue med. There was somebody else to help her. And we were panicked, but we had to go because she kicked us out.
Yeah.
And as we were, on the lift going over the area where he was, we could see him, and he was all smiles. 10 minutes later, when we left, he was grabbing and biting and doing all this stuff to signal anxiety. But once we were out of the picture, he calmed down. And it's good for you to create that space, and it's really good for you to for all of us to start giving, building that network of support around us that's broad and deep, and for them to get to know our kids when they're little, because some of the things that they do when they're little are cute when they're little, and they're not so cute when they're adults. But if they've known them the whole life, is And we've been lucky to have somebody who helps us with Sebastian, who's been with us for about 8 years. And we've been even able to take vacations and leave him with her. And my mom, who's 80 but manages the kids, and we'll leave her, and thank God for her because she's a trooper. But you need to have a broad group because you need to get away to maintain your sanity. It's just too much, too intense every day. And so I think that the guilt is understandable, but it's super important that you do what you're doing. So in terms of getting away and recharging your battery.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a good point. And like you brought up too, and I think most of us have said that guilt is all self-inflicted, right? I don't come home from any kind of outing. I even had some dinner with some friends last night, and I don't come home. The house didn't burn down twice, and the kids are asleep. It's okay. And I have to tell myself though. So I do think I think it's a process, right? I wouldn't dream of even asking to go and do some of this stuff 4 years ago when the boys were tiny. I wouldn't even think of it, but I have to be okay allowing myself that space, right, John? It's crucial. It's self-care, right? It is getting away and decompressing. Nate, like you mentioned, it's not an anger. It's just you're overwhelmed. Like in having somebody who's, Jackson does the exact same thing. 45-pound kid, crawling on your head, and I don't know where he thinks he's going, but he wants to be here and then in down into my head. I do not know where he's going. I wish I could see what he sees because he must see things differently. But it'll drive you nuts, and I know you have to be okay walking away and taking that time.
So I know I've kept you guys on for a while, but there might be some other dads that are listening to this now. So just from your perspective, what is maybe you've shared a little bit of it already, but if you could give a piece of advice to your fellow Angelman dads, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. Get involved with your community. The Facebook Dads group, Jim, I'm going to plug your group, has been amazing. From a perspective of here's what other angels are doing and here's what I'm struggling with. That's been a great resource. And then, I'm 4 years into it, so I'm still new in the journey, but I get a lot out of helping newly diagnosed families as well, and just saying, hey, I know where you're at and it's rough, and it's okay that it's rough. And, this is what's helped me, and kind of providing them that guidance.
I love that. So before we get off that subject, for those who are the people who are listening, if someone wants to get onto that Facebook page, what is the name of that group?
It's called the Dedicated Angelman Dude Society. It's for any person who is a father figure. Could be a grandfather, could be a father, could be a stepfather, could be a godfather, whatever kind of a father figure type is. There's no ladies allowed. Sorry. This is a dudes only only area. And it stands Dedicated Angelman Dude Society. Comes down to dads.
I love it. And Jim, also you and Mark, right, do a Zoom call with dads as well, right?
Yeah, we do. We try to get together once a month, a couple hours a night. Sometimes I got to hop off early. I don't know how late those guys stay up. I'm on the East Coast. We started at 9:00 my time, so it starts late. They're out west Mountain Time. But it's great to just kind of just talk, and you kind of go off on tangents, about certain types of diaper issues or whatnot, and you kind of just chat about it, you laugh about it, and it's our life, it's part of our life, and there's no sense of being angry about it. And that's something that Nate, like you said, that I want to pass on to people under and even maybe older than me too, that everything's going to be okay. Keep your head up, be positive. It's like I said earlier, it might not be the picture that you had thought that your life was going to be, but it is your life. You play the cards that you were dealt. And I probably said that line to everybody. These are the cards we were dealt, so this is how we're playing them. And giving back to I guess to our community is ultimately what I do. Talking to people on the phone and newly diagnosed, or just chatting or texting, or random questions and whatnot. It's just I want to make myself available to anybody. I don't care who you are. Anybody in the Angelman community is welcome to talk to me. It's just that I want to be there to help other people, because I know that there was a gentleman who reached out to us in the very beginning, and he just was like, here it is. So it's kind of what I want to do. He helped us, so I want to help others.
I love that. What about you, John?
So I think we've touched upon a lot of these topics. For us, it was important to, take care of each other and take care of ourselves while we're providing our kids the best support that we can. I think, we used to live in New York, and at the very beginning, we were hyper focused on schools and skills and this and that. And then at some point we kind of woke up and realized it's more about community, right? Because there'll be some skills that they can develop, but they'll take time. What you want to be is somewhere where you can have people around who accept them. And we live in Miami in a very small community of about 13,000 people. And, if we happen to have a new caretaker who's with Sebastian around somewhere, we'll get calls from people. It's like, do you have a new caretaker? Yeah. It's like, there's eyes everywhere. And Sebastian's favorite place is to go by the pool, because that's where everybody goes. And he gets, so integrating him into the community, whether it's dragging him along to my other kids' soccer games, and making him part of the spectators, or whatever it is, we include him in everything we do. Luckily, we've been able to find a couple of vacations like skiing and Disney, and a couple of things that we do down in Puerto Rico, where I'm from, where all of our kids can have fun. Ours is 18, 11, and 5, so they're very diverse in age. But just kind of having as much building, not limiting yourself, and building as much normal around your life as you can. Like, for us, the fact that he's carpooling is huge.
Yeah.
Something we never thought we would have. And it might seem simple or stupid, or, but average is great for us. It's like, oh, everybody has it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and just building that network of support of people who know him and can help out. If you can get it right. Everybody's family situation is different, but siblings, we've had cousins, distant cousins, who help out and have made, we have a niece who came and played with Sebastian for a little bit, for about a year, once a week, and every night before he goes to sleep, he shows us her picture.
Aww.
It's like, she made a huge difference, and she didn't think much of it. Right. But it was just having just a lot of people around helps.
Yeah. I love that. What about you?
Um, stay and connect with the community. I think, I think for me, the absolute hands down biggest thing that I look forward to every 2 years, and I know it's 2 years, and I will do things like this and we'll be able to catch up with each other. But man, the family conferences hosted by ASF.
I did not tell him to say
No,
what.
no, and this is all of my own mind. They are for me at first it was intimidating, and I know a lot of new parents will feel that way. There's a lot to absorb, but the nice thing is you can do it in chunks. You don't have to raise a 6-month-old immediately to an 18-year-old. Like, there are people along the way that are on this journey, and we have a perfect group of them right now, right here all together, 18, 12, and 8, and 4. These people are out there and they're accessible and they want that kind of community, and it looks different for everyone, right? Not everybody wants to go plan a huge trip to wine country or what have you, and if they do, then that's great, because there's another group of guys that want to do that too. But I think what is so rejuvenating for me is to be around the Johns, the Nates, and the Jims, and get in the same space as someone who has an angel, and you don't have to start from zero and have that conversation. Well, what's that? What does that mean? You can just jump right in and, like, how's work going? How are you doing? Like, what's new? What's happened over the last 2 years? In some cases, because we don't always get to see all these people or talk to them as much as we'd like to. But I really come to a conference, and if you leave there and you're not changed, or you're not connected, or you haven't learned something, then you can reach out directly to Amanda Moore, who's the CEO of the ASF, and she will get you hooked up. But it's life-changing to be around these people, and I look so forward to carving out that time and doing things like this and seeing your comrades' faces and hearing their voices, because they get it. I
think that's huge too, is the friendships, and I'm speaking for myself, the friendships that I've created from those conferences. We missed our first conference.
I know.
Since Cole was diagnosed. We unfortunately just couldn't get there, but we went to every single one. We have these friendships. We have friends in, I know I'm going to miss people, but in Kentucky, in Chicago, in Colorado, in California. A good friend of mine is in Massachusetts, all because of Angelman syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely amazing, the friendships that we have, that I have now, that I don't know if I would have been friends with them if it weren't for Angelman syndrome. But that's our connection, and here we are.
Yeah. And it's really funny, you mentioned that, and I was my way of attending the conference has evolved. Like, when you're recently diagnosed, you're like going to every session. You're like overwhelmed because you got all this information thrown at you. And my last conference was like, okay, what is being recorded? If it's recorded, I can listen to it afterwards. And I just want to sit outside and meet people and hang out and create. And the beauty of this is that we're creating a community for ourselves, but we're creating a community for our kids. Yeah, we're going to need that support when we're no longer around, right? And if you take your kids to your conference and they meet other kids, my middle son, Nico, said, used to say, well, none of my friends have a brother with Angelman, but now he's friends with Billy, Marianne's son, and he can't say that anymore because he has plenty of friends who have siblings with Angelman. So I think this is a unique journey that we're on, and it's great to have a community of people who get it. The walk, Sebastian treats the walk like his birthday. He knows everybody is there for him. And so he's the happiest kid, and everybody's happy. And it's just, he enjoys that day more than the birthday. And I think the same is true of the conferences. You get to relax. You don't have to explain anything.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It's all okay.
Yeah.
And you get to hang out and have drinks and talk about the stuff that you can't talk to other people about because it'd be horrifying.
I love all these plugs that you guys are putting.
Well, I have one more.
I'm telling you, right?
I have one more plug.
Okay.
To Mr. Adam Moore, who is the unsung hero who makes, everything go on behind the scenes and lets Amanda have this all this time to we appreciate you more than you'll ever know, because you are, the strength there, and you're carrying a huge load as well. So we are grateful for everything you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I love you guys. And I know who to turn to. If I'm having a day and I'm tired of cleaning poop, waking up at 1, then 2, then 4, then 5, if I just need someone who gets it, and I don't have to, like we've said, and I know it's been repeated, but that is priceless to me. To jump on and text somebody, I'll text a couple of different guys and just be like, this day was just garbage, and I'll almost always get back, I get it. Don't beat yourself up. Tomorrow's a new day. And it's encouraging. It's simple words, but I need it, and I don't need it from people who don't maybe understand and maybe don't get it. I don't need platitudes. I need, man, I'm in the trenches with you, right here next to you. Eat a Snickers. You're not yourself right now. Just it's okay. Calm down, take a breath, and then get back in there and keep going. That's what I need. And that's what my crew is for,
Well, I love all of you guys. I could talk to you guys all night, but I know that all of you have responsibilities you need to get back to. But thank you so much for, all you do for the community, but all you do for your family. I think it's so amazing to see dads that are so involved and engaged, and the pieces of advice that you have given us all tonight have been amazing. And hopefully other dads will hear this and want to reach out and want to connect. And it can be really an impactful moment for that dad to have someone. So just FYI, the conference that everyone spoke about, it's happening 2024. I think it's the last week of July in the beautiful city of Sandusky, Ohio, which I know everyone's excited about, at the Kalahari Resort. So more details will be coming along with that. But I think the best part of that for you guys will be the dads session, where we provide all the drinks that you would like, and you get to hang out and meet other dads. So stay tuned for more information. But thank you, Nate, Jim, Adam, and John, for being on with me tonight. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you guys will join us for the next podcast coming soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the ASF podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support us, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating or review. And please don't forget to subscribe.